The city had dressed itself in lights. Every street seemed to glow with borrowed stars. Shop windows shimmered with artificial snow. Music drifted from doorways like warm breath in cold air. It was Christmas night, and the world looked as though it had finally learned how to smile without being told. Cars passed slowly, their headlights stretching across wet asphalt like ribbons of gold. And somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang, not loudly, not proudly, but gently, like it was afraid to disturb the fragile beauty of the moment. Inside a quiet house perched above the city, the lights were dim. No laughter spilled from its windows. No music played. No voices argued over wrapping paper or burnt cookies. Only a soft lamp glowed in the corner of a large living room, its pale halo barely touching the edges of furniture that had once known crowds' applause, and late-night conversations that lasted until sunrise. A man sat alone in a leather chair. He was older now, thinner. The sharp edges of youth had long since been softened by time, by memories, by 1,000 nights spent under stage lights. His hair was silver, carefully combed, but no longer pretending to be anything else. His face, once known for its effortless charm, carried lines that told quieter stories of long roads, missed moments, and applause that fades faster than anyone expects. The world had once called him Dean Martin. Once that name could fill rooms. Once it could pull laughter from strangers and turn it into a shared language. Once it meant bright marquees, sold-out theaters, packed studios, glasses raised in smoky rooms where joy was always just one joke away. Tonight, it meant something different. Tonight, it meant a man listening to the sound of his own breathing. The fireplace across the room crackled softly. Not enough to warm the house, just enough to remind him that time was still moving, whether he wanted it to or not. On the small table beside his chair sat a single photograph in a silver frame. The edges were worn from being picked up too many times. It showed a younger man, arms slung casually around friends, smile wide, eyes alive with the reckless confidence of someone who believes tomorrow will always be there. Dean did not pick it up. He already knew every detail instead. He stared at the Christmas tree standing quietly in the corner. Its lights blinked in slow, patient rhythms, like they were breathing too, or maybe watching him. Beneath it, a few neatly wrapped boxes rested on the floor. Gifts he had ordered weeks ago. Gifts that had already been delivered where they were supposed to go. The space under the tree was empty now, except for one small package he had wrapped himself. Earlier that afternoon, he had placed no name on it because he had not yet decided who it was for. The clock on the wall ticked. Every second landed heavy in the room. Dean shifted in his chair. The movement cost him more than it used to. His hands, once steady enough to lift glasses in one hand and microphones in the other, rested on the arms of the chair. Veins visible, fingers slightly trembling, not from fear, but from the quiet truth of age. For a long time, he had believed that if you filled enough rooms, you would never have to face an empty one. He had been wrong. The phone on the side table did not ring. It hadn't rung all evening. No producers. No agents. No old friends calling, just to hear a familiar voice on a holiday. Messages had come earlier in the day. Short, polite, respectful. Hope you're well. Thinking of you. Merry Christmas. And words. Distant words. Words that lived safely on the other side of glass. Dean closed his eyes, and the silence did something dangerous. It gave him space to remember. He saw the studios. First, the heat of the lights, the smell of cables and makeup, the buzz that lived just beneath the skin when an audience waited. He saw the jokes land, the music rise, the way people leaned forward when he spoke, as if whatever he was about to say mattered simply because it came from him. He saw tables crowded with faces, glasses clinking, laughter rolling in waves so strong it felt like proof of something permanent. He saw hands reaching for his. He heard his name called like it was an invitation. Then, the pictures changed. He saw hotel rooms. After the crowds left, He saw empty hallways. He saw mornings when applause still rang in his ears, but no one sat. Across from him at breakfast, he remembered promising himself, again and again, that there would be time. Time to call. Time to explain. Time to fix small cracks before they became distances. Success had a way of whispering lies. It told him he was needed. Everywhere, it never warned him where he might be missing. Dean's eyes opened slowly. The tree lights blurred. He reached for the small glass on the table beside him, lifted it halfway, then stopped. The reflection in the dark window caught his attention. Not the legend. Not the performer. Just a man. An old man sitting quietly on Christmas night, looking like someone who had once lived several different lives and was now trying to remember which one had been real. He set the glass down untouched. His gaze drifted to a stack of envelopes on the table near the door. Mail he had not opened. Cards sent by people who remembered the name, even if they no longer knew the man. Among them lay one thin, cream-colored envelope. No return address. No decoration. Only his name written carefully across the front. He had noticed it earlier. He had not opened it. Something about it made his chest feel tight. Dean stared at it now, for a long moment. He did nothing then, slowly. As if afraid the motion itself might break something, he leaned forward in his chair. The fire popped softly behind him. The clock continued its patient counting. He reached out, his fingers hovering above the envelope, hesitating like someone standing at the edge of a memory they were not sure. They were strong enough to enter. When he finally picked it up, it felt lighter than it should have. He turned it over once, twice, then slid a finger under the edge and opened it. Inside was not a card. There was no printed greeting, no glitter, no festive design, just a single folded page. Dean unfolded it carefully. His eyes moved to the first line, and something in his expression changed. The practiced calm, the quiet distance, the gentle armor he wore, even alone. It cracked. His lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. The room felt suddenly smaller, the air heavier, as if the past had stepped through an unseen door and closed it behind itself. He read the next line, then the next. His breathing grew uneven, not with fear, with recognition, with the kind of surprise that does not feel new, but ancient, like finding something you lost so long ago you had begun to believe it never existed. Dean lowered the letter into his lap. The fire continued to burn. The tree continued to glow. Outside, the city continued to celebrate. Inside, something else had begun. A reckoning, a remembering, a quiet, irreversible turn inward. And for the first time that night, Dean Martin was not thinking about the rooms he had filled, but the ones he had left empty. The paper trembled slightly in his hands. Dean had held contracts heavier than this. Awards, scripts, glasses, raised in rooms where deals were sealed with laughter and a wink. But this single sheet felt different. It did not belong to the world of spotlights. It did not care who he had been. It spoke only to who he was. The fire snapped softly behind him. The sound should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a ticking fuse. Dean looked down again, forcing his eyes to return to the words. The handwriting was careful, not elegant, not rushed. Each letter was shaped like it mattered. I don't know if this will reach you in time. I don't even know if you will want to read it. But tonight, on Christmas, there are things that shouldn't be carried into another year. Dean's throat tightened. He read more slowly now. You once told me that laughter was your way of keeping sadness from winning. I believed you. I built my whole heart around that sentence. I thought if I laughed with you long enough, loud enough, neither of us would ever have to face what hurt. The room felt colder. Dean shifted forward, elbows resting on his knees, letter held close as if it might slip away if he loosened his grip. But sadness doesn't disappear. It waits. It becomes quiet. And then one day, when the music is gone, it finally speaks. A memory stirred, not a clear one, just a color. A voice, the smell of rain on pavement. He continued, I am not writing to accuse you. I am writing because there are truths I never said when I should have, and because silence has already taken enough from both of us. Dean closed his eyes, and the past stepped closer. He saw a small club, long before the world knew his name. The stage barely higher than the floor, the lights weak, the crowd restless. He saw himself younger, hungrier, sharper, wearing confidence like armor because he had not yet learned what it cost. And he saw her. She had been sitting near the back, not laughing at first, watching, like someone deciding whether to trust a bridge before stepping onto it. He had noticed her because she wasn't trying to be noticed. After the show, she hadn't rushed him. She waited until the noise thinned, until the room returned to something honest. When she finally spoke, it wasn't praise. It was a question. Why do you joke like you're running from something? He had laughed then. A big laugh. The kind audiences loved, but something in her eyes had told him she wasn't joking. Dean's gaze returned to the page. You never liked when I talked about the quiet. You filled it too quickly. Stories, parties, work. Always work. You called it ambition. I called it distance. Neither of us knew yet that both could be true. His fingers tightened around the letter. He stood up slowly and walked toward the window. Outside, fireworks bloomed briefly above the distant skyline. Red and gold bursting open, then vanishing without a trace. The city cheered for explosions that left nothing behind. Dean read on. There was a night I wanted to tell you I was afraid. Not of losing you, of already having lost you while you were still standing in front of me. The words landed harder than anything else so far, because he remembered that night. He had come home late. The door half open. The lights on. She had been sitting at the small table by the kitchen window, hands folded, as if she had rehearsed where to place them. He had kissed her cheek distractedly, already halfway into another story about another room. Another laugh. Another future that always seemed to start somewhere else. She had asked him how long success needed. Him more than she did, he had answered without thinking, just until it's secure. Secured as if love could be scheduled, as if hearts ran on contracts. Dean's reflection in the glass looked older now than it had an hour ago. He lowered the letter. Slightly God, he whispered to the empty room. The fire answered. The clock did not. He raised the paper again. I waited for the day you would come home and be present instead of impressive. It never came. And I was too young, too proud, too quiet to tell you that applause was starting to sound like a closed door. His chest ached not sharply, but deeply, like something pressing from the inside. Searching for a way out, he moved back to the chair and sat down heavily. I left before resentment could turn love into something cruel. I told myself that was kindness. Sometimes I wonder if it was just fear wearing good manners. Dean swallowed. He could see her now more clearly. The way she used to stand near doorways. The way she paused before speaking, as if choosing words carefully, because she believed words shaped outcomes. The way she smiled with only half her mouth when something hurt. But she didn't want to embarrass him with it. He had loved her. He had truly loved her. And he had assumed that meant she would always be there. Years passed. Your name grew. Mine disappeared. People asked if I had ever known you. I used to say yes with pride. Later, I said it less. Not because I was ashamed, but because it felt like touching a bruise in public. Dean's eyes blurred. He blinked hard, but the words swam anyway. I built a small life. It wasn't glamorous. It was real. And for a while, it healed me. Then illness came, quietly, like winter. And with it came time. More time than I had ever had before. The clock on the wall seemed louder now. Each tick a step, each step closer. I am not afraid of what is happening to my body. I am afraid of leaving things unspoken. You once told me the saddest songs are the ones that never get finished. I think the same is true of people. Dean's hands shook. He had told her that, on a night when he was trying to impress her with cleverness, he had not known she would remember. If this reaches you, I want you to know this. You gave me laughter. You gave me wonder. You gave me a version of myself that believed anything was possible. I do not regret loving you. I regret only that we were young enough to confuse being busy with being alive. The room felt unbearably still, no music, no voices, just him, and a truth that had waited decades to arrive. I am spending this Christmas in a quiet room, with a small tree and a window that looks onto nothing special. It is enough. But there is one thing missing. Not you, not the past. Just the sound of honesty. So I am sending it now. Dean exhaled shakily. If there is still time for anything between us, let it be this: forgiveness. Not because we were cruel, but because we were human. The letter ended with no signature, only a single line beneath it. From someone who once loved you when you were still learning how? Dean lowered the page slowly. His hands fell into his lap. The firelight danced across his face, catching in the moisture at the edge of his eyes. For a long time, he did not move. The memories came now without invitation. Small moments, almost invisible ones. Coffee cups, shared glances, half-finished sentences. All the tiny things that never make headlines and yet somehow build entire lives. The phone on the table suddenly felt closer. He stared at it. How many numbers did he still know by heart? How many had changed? How many doors did he assume were closed simply because he had never tried them? Outside, another burst of fireworks cracked open the sky. Dean did not look. Instead, picked up the small, nameless gift from beneath the tree, turned it once in his hands. Then again, his thumb brushed the ribbon slowly, thoughtfully, as if the object itself had just gained a different meaning. He set it beside the phone. Two small things. One, heavy night and a choice he had not expected to face, for the first time in years. Dean Martin felt something unfamiliar stirring beneath the memories and regret. Not applause, not nostalgia, but the quiet, dangerous possibility that something unfinished might still be finished. The phone had not moved, but everything around it had. The room felt different, now charged. It's unsettled, as if the air itself had begun to remember things it had long forgotten. Dean sat in his chair, the letter resting on his knee, the small gift beside the phone like an unanswered question. Outside, another cheer rolled through the city. Somewhere, glasses clinked. Somewhere, families leaned closer to one another. Here, time stood with its hands folded. Dean watched the phone. For a long moment, he did nothing. Then he stood, slowly, deliberately, as if standing too. Quickly might cause the courage to spill out of him and shatter on the floor. He crossed the living room. Each step felt heavier than the last. Not because of his body, but because of what those steps meant. How many years had he spent walking toward stages without hesitation? Toward lights. Toward noise. Toward rooms full of people who knew his name, but not his. Silences. This was different. This was walking toward the one sound he had avoided his entire life, his own. Dean picked up the phone. It felt colder than he expected. He turned it in his hand once, then placed it back down, palm resting over it as if steadying something alive. I don't even know if you're still there, he murmured to no one. The letter lay open on the chair behind him. The words seemed to echo in his head, not loudly, but persistently. If there is still time for anything between us, let it be this: forgiveness, forgiveness. He had always thought of it as something other people asked for. He had never realized how much he needed to offer it to her, too. Himself. He lifted the phone again. His fingers hovered over the buttons. The number came to him slowly, not all at once. Pieces first. A rhythm, a pattern. A voice saying it aloud long ago, correcting him gently when he mixed up the order. He closed his eyes, allowing the fragments to assemble. One, pause, dot, 3. Pause 7. His finger trembled. What if it no longer belonged to her? What if someone else answered? What if no one did? He pressed the first number, the second, the third. Each one landed like a footstep in a dark hallway. The phone rang once. The sound cut through the house like a blade twice. Dot's jaw tightened. 3 times he almost lowered it, almost convinced himself this was foolish, late, unnecessary. Almost retreated into the familiar safety of silence. Then the line clicked, and a voice spoke. Soft, careful, double quotes. Hello. Dean's breath left him in a rush. For a second, he could not speak. The voice had aged, but it had not changed. The same calm undercurrent. The same slight pause before words, as if she still believed they mattered. It's late, the voice said. Who's calling? Dean closed his eyes. His grip tightened on the phone. It's Christmas, he managed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, Dean. The way she said his name was not dramatic. It did not tremble. It simply arrived. And in that one word lived every version of himself he had ever been. Yes, he whispered. There was silence, not the empty kind, the full kind, the kind that holds breath and memory and the echo of something that never really ended. I wasn't sure, she said finally. I thought. I hoped. But I didn't know if you would. Dean leaned against the table, suddenly unsure of his balance. I got your letter. Another silence, this one heavier. I didn't know if it would find you, she said. I didn't even know if you'd want it to. I read it, he said. Twice. A faint sound came through the line, not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. I'm glad. He swallowed. I don't know how to. Start, he admitted. Then don't start, she replied gently. Just talk. So he did. He did not perform. He did not polish. He did not reach for humor. He spoke. About the house, about the quiet, about the tree, about the way. The city sounded like it was celebrating something he had not been invited to. He told her how her words had opened rooms. In him, he thought, were locked forever. How the memories came not like storms, but like lights switching on in a long-abandoned building when he stopped. He expected something grand in return. She did not give it. I'm in a care home, she said. It's small. The nurses put tinsel on the windows. There's a tree in the common room. Someone played old records earlier. Sinatra, Nat, and you. He closed his eyes. I didn't leave because you were unkind, she continued. I left because I was disappearing next to you. And I didn't want to become someone who blamed the man she loved for the life she never chose. Dean's voice broke. I didn't know how to choose anything but motion, he said. I thought stopping meant failing. She was quiet a long time. Stopping is how you hear yourself, she said. The fire popped behind him. The clock marked another minute. How sick are you? He asked quietly. There it was. The question he had been circling. She did not answer immediately. Enough, she said finally. Enough to be honest. He nodded, though she could not see him. I'm not calling to reopen wounds, he said. I'm calling because I don't want the rest of my life to be made of things I never said. Her breath moved through the line, then say, them. Dean straightened, as if someone had just raised a curtain inside him. I'm sorry, he said, not theatrically, not tragically, simply double quotes for every time I filled the room instead of standing in it. For every night I came home with stories instead of ears. For mistaking being admired for being known. The words felt like weights leaving him. She did not interrupt. I loved you, he continued. And I hid inside that love instead of living inside it. There was a sound. On the other end, tissue, a breath, unsteadier than before. Thank you, she said, for hearing me. Now, for calling. For letting something finish. Does it have to finish? He asked. The question surprised them both. Silence. Then softly, what are you asking, Dean? He looked at the small wrapped gift beside the phone. At the empty chair? At the glowing tree? I don't know how much time I have, he said, but I know how I don't want to spend it. Another pause. Longer. I have a window, she said. It looks onto a parking lot. But at night, the lights blur, and it almost looks like water. Sometimes I pretend I'm near the ocean. Dean closed his eyes. I always told myself I'd take you somewhere quiet, he said. Somewhere the world couldn't applaud, her voice softened. You never had to take me anywhere. He opened his eyes then, said the words he had never practiced. I'm coming to see you. Line went completely still. Dean, not tomorrow, he said. Not when it's convenient. Tonight, if they'll let me, or in the morning. As soon as I can. You don't owe me, I know, he said. That's why I'm coming. Another silence. Then, I'll tell them to expect you. The way she said it made something inside him ache and rise at the same time. Thank you, he said, for writing, for waiting, for not letting the quiet win. They did not hang up right away. They spoke of small things. The way the staff decorated cupcakes. The way the snow had almost fallen, but hadn't. The way music still found her even when she did not go looking for it. When the call finally ended, Dean did not move for a long time. The house felt less like a monument, now more like a passage. He slowly set the phone down, then he picked up the small gift beneath the tree, turned at once, smiled faintly. He went to the door and reached for his coat. As he did, he paused, and for the first time that night, Dean Martin did not feel like a man waiting for the end of something. He felt like a man about to arrive. The night air cut through him the moment he stepped outside. It carried the sharp, metallic scent of winter and the distant smoke of fireworks. Somewhere nearby, a group laughed loudly, their joy spilling into the street like music. A car passed slowly, its windows glowing. Someone inside singing along to a Christmas song already half forgotten by the time the chorus ended. Dean stood on the threshold of his house for a long moment. The door opened behind him, the life he had known waiting. Quietly inside, he looked back once at the dim room, at the empty chair, at the tree still glowing without anyone to witness it. Then he closed the door, and for the first time in years, he walked not toward noise, but toward meaning. The drive was longer than he expected. Traffic slowed him. Sirens passed. Colored lights reflected across his windshield. Red and blue and gold smearing together like memories that refused to stay separate. His hands rested steadily on the wheel, but his chest felt crowded, filled with words he had not yet spoken and questions he was afraid to ask. What would she look like now? What would he look like to her? Fame had not prepared him for this. Nothing had. When he finally reached the care home, the building stood modestly between two darker structures, its windows glowing warmly against the cold. A small plastic wreath hung on the door, crooked but earnest. A sign read, Peace, Comfort, Dignity. Dean sat in the car with the engine off. He listened to the ticking as the metal cooled. He pressed his fingers briefly to the steering wheel. Then he took a breath and stepped out. Inside, the air smelled faintly of pine cleaner and something sweet. A nurse at the desk looked up, recognition flickering across her face, then something gentler replacing it. She did not say his name. She simply nodded. She's awake, she said softly. Room 12. The hallway lights were low. Christmas cards lined a small table near the wall. A paper tree decorated with handwritten wishes leaned slightly to one side. Dean walked slowly, his shoes whispering against the floor. Each step carrying him deeper into a space where applause had never been invited. At the door marked 12, he stopped. His hand hovered over the wood. For the first time that night, he was afraid, not of what he might see, but of what he might feel. He knocked. Come in, her voice called. It was quieter than on the phone, but it was her. Dean opened the door. The room was small. A bed near the window, a lamp casting a warm circle of light, a tiny Christmas tree on the side table, decorated with paper stars and one crooked angel. Outside the window, a streetlight glowed. Blurring softly against the glass, she was sitting up in bed, a blanket over her legs, hands folded, as he remembered them carefully, deliberately. When she saw him, she did not cry. She smiled. Not widely, not dramatically, the same half-smile he remembered. "You came," nodded. Unable to trust his voice, he stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Up close he could see the changes. The thinness, the pallor, the softness of features once sharpened by youth. But her eyes were the same, clear, attentive, unfinished. "I didn't want another Christmas to be made of furniture and memory," he said. "Quietly sit," she replied. He pulled the chair close to the bed and lowered himself into it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply looked. Decades rested in that silence. Finally, she said, "You look tired." He smiled faintly. "I am." "Good," she said. "Then you finally match your soul." He let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "Do you remember the night you told me I joked like I was running?" she asked. He nodded. "I didn't know what I was running from," he said. "And now," he looked down at his hands. "The quiet," he answered. "The possibility that if I stopped, I might find something broken." She reached out. Then her hand was cool, light but real. "Broken things still make music," she said. He closed his fingers gently around hers. They spoke for a long time, not of headlines, not of success, but of kitchens and cities and small regrets and stranger kindnesses. She told him about the children she had taught, the way some of them still wrote her, the way one boy had brought her a snow globe every year, because she once said she liked them. Dean listened, not as a performer, but as a man who had finally learned that attention was love's real language. When the room grew quieter, he reached into his coat and pulled out the small, wrapped gift. "I brought you something," he said. She tilted her head. "You didn't have to," replied. He placed it in her hands. She undid the ribbon. Slowly inside was not jewelry, not anything expensive. It was a small music box, simple. When she opened it, a gentle, fragile melody began to turn through the room. A tune from long ago. One he had sung before the world started listening. Her eyes filled instantly. "Ow," she whispered. Dean swallowed. "I found it in a shop years ago," he said. "I always meant to give it to you. Then I kept meaning it. And then I just kept it." She closed the box gently, held it to her chest. "Thank you," she said, "for bringing the part of you that didn't perform." The nurse appeared. Quietly at the door, she met Dean's eyes and gave a small nod. "She should rest," she said. The words were gentle, but they carried weight. Dean understood. Them, he stood slowly. "I'll come back tomorrow," he said. She shook her head. "No," she replied. "Stay a minute." The nurse stepped back. She looked up at him, her eyes steady. "There's something I want you to hear while you're still listening," she said. He sat, again, leaning forward now, as if distance itself were no longer acceptable. "You were never wrong to chase what made you feel alive," she said. "You were only wrong to believe it could replace love." Tears slid down his face. He did not hide them. "I spent years forgiving you," she continued. "Tonight, I finally forgive the girl who didn't know how to ask you to stay." He pressed his forehead briefly to her hand. "I don't know what happens after this," he said. "That's all right," she replied. "Just don't miss what's happening now," the nurse returned softly. This time, she did not step away. Dean understood. He bent closer. "Thank you," he whispered, "for writing, for loving me when I didn't know how to be loved back." She smiled faintly. "And thank you," she replied, "for finally being here." They held hands. The small music box rested between them. Outside, Faint fireworks bloomed one last time, inside. Something much quieter was ending, and something gentler was complete. When Dean left the room, the hallway felt different, not empty. Resolved, he walked slowly out into the cold night. The city still glittered. The celebrations still echoed. But they no longer felt distant. He had not fixed the past, but he had honored it. He did not return home. Instead, he drove. Not toward lights, not toward noise, but toward the long road that had always waited for him to walk it honestly. And in the stillness of Christmas night, Dean Martin carried with him no applause. Only the sound of a small melody, a forgiven heart, and the quiet understanding that what truly breaks us is not dying alone, but living without ever truly arriving.